Food is more than a simple necessity. It shapes us, shapes our culture, and is a source of inspiration for many. But what defines the food we eat? Is it who makes it, how they make it, or simply where it came from? Sit down with Culture Matters for an indulgent look at the exquisite diversity of food.
Culture Matters, it matters. Hello, Chef Hai. We're going to talk about a very interesting topic today, food. Okay, join us here in the studio are two very famous chefs, Eric Johnson and David Laris.
The man behind Laris is none other than David Laris. This internationally acclaimed chef has helmed restaurants all over the globe.
And there it is, roast cap of Wagyu beef, green beans, porcini mushrooms with a truffle sauce.
His restaurant Laris has received raves for its innovative style in modern New World cuisine.
My cooking philosophy is make food taste good, make complicated things seem simple, and simple things seem complicated.
Welcome to our kitchen.
Who is behind the most famous French cuisines in Shanghai?
Can you get a bottle of sake, please?
He's Eric Johnson, chef partner of Jean-Georges Shanghai.
I'm not sure if I have a proper cooking philosophy as such, but if I had to pick one word, it would be delicious.
During his career, Eric has worked top kitchens in both Paris and New York. Here in Shanghai, his talents are unquestionably showcased in his fine French creations.
The only lady on the set, Apple Mandy from Manila, Philippines, the editor of Food and Drink Events section of That's Shanghai magazine.
Judging from her immense collection of food books and magazines, Apple Mandy has more than just a passing fancy to food. She is an editor for That's Shanghai magazine.
These are my books, food books. Basically, I try to buy as much as I can. My favorite book is Ruth Ritchell, reviewing in different restaurants in New York.
And loves cooking cuisines from her native Philippines.
This is adobo, or it's called chicken stew, which is a very popular Filipino dish.
Let's start from these two chefs first. Mm-hmm. In China, people sometimes don't know the real difference between a chef and a cook. In Chinese, we always say 厨师. Okay, what's the real difference in these two words to you?
Well, I think a cook is anyone who cooks food. And in a professional sense, a cook is what everyone who works in a kitchen is. Mm-hmm. And chef is a position that you hold. So the chef is the one in charge, but all of the people in the kitchen are cooks.
What I mean by in charge? In charge means that probably you two don't really do something, or you just instruct people to do it or something?
I know I do plenty. Now, to add to Eric's definition, I think it also is defined by somebody who actually does a technical training to become a qualified chef, rather than just somebody who comes in off the street and learns the trade hands-on on the job. So we're qualified in what we do, in terms of the science and a deeper understanding of the business side of running a kitchen. Mm-hmm. Whereas a cook can just come in and learn. But as Eric said, we're all cooks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's just like one of the movies that we watched from last year, two of the movies. Like one is with Catherine Zeta-Jones.
No Reservations.
No Reservations. And the other one, you probably don't like that, the Ratatouille. You mean the cartoon.
I love Ratatouille.
You love Ratatouille? Cool, yeah. Okay.
Ratatouille is cool.
This is cool. I love it.
It's better than No Reservations.
Really? Is chef the key element of a restaurant to you?
I would say yes, but plus the service and the ambience, it also really matters a lot. Mm-hmm. It's not just the food, it's not just the chef, but I think it's an overall experience. We
can have a real bad meal even in the poor restaurant with a good chef.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Why did you choose to become involved in food?
Without food, you don't live. And I think people who don't spend their life being passionate about food, are probably missing out on one of the greatest joys that life has to offer us. I've been passionate about food since I was a kid. I come from a family that are very, very food orientated. We all cook at home. We grow our own produce. So for me, it was natural to go into this industry. So I love it.
What about you, Larry?
Yeah, I grew up in a family where we literally never ever went to restaurants, ever.
Never?
Pretty much never.
Really?
But I grew up close to the water, so I grew up fishing and scalloping and crabbing and there are wild grapes in the fall, and we make grape jelly. So cooking was a huge part of our family lifestyle growing up, and so I developed my interest through that.
To all of you, I mean, you even though you're not a chef, what motivated you to do that?
I think it's because food, there's so many things to talk about food. There's so many things to discover.
Tell us a little bit more about the difference between the Chinese Western food and Eastern.
Eastern is pretty much the use of spices and herbs. It's much simpler.
Asian food is
pretty complicated.
Yeah, it's complex and it's highly sophisticated.
Yeah. Look at Japanese, look how evolved that cuisine is. Look at Thai, how evolved it is. Chinese, obviously, it's super evolved. It's been around for millennia, So, I think it's the old cultures that you look at. Any old culture, I don't think you can necessarily define it by saying, it's Chinese or Western. It's about old cultures that actually have been cooking for 1,000, 2,000 years. But if the fundamental differences are clearly technique and ingredients, they're the two main things, because climate and the way people eat and so on are driven by where you live. But that's about it. Apart from that, I think the techniques are equal to any old culture.
Talk about Western food. What kind of food are you offering?
I call it contemporary fine dining for the simple reason that it's a way that I cannot define it, because I don't want to define the food style. So I had to come up with something that was ambiguous enough that it was non-definable. And that's why I chose to describe it that way. It gives me a free platform to work from that I don't have any restrictions or any boundaries.
Well, what about the culture behind it, as you just mentioned?
The culture is universal. I've lived in 7 countries. I've visited over 40 countries. For me, it's influences from everywhere.
Okay, what about the culture behind your cooking, actually? What kind of food are you offering?
Well, our cooking is definitely based in French, but we have a little sprinkling of Asian ingredients and techniques as well, definitely.
Okay, Asian ingredients. So talk about ingredients. Is there any ingredients that's a must or that's popular in both sides of the world? We're going to find that out after the break. We'll be right back.
Ginger was actually brought to Europe by the Romans.
Well, it's not compromising it. After all, you're trying to make something that people like.
They tried to put oyster sauce in their dish.
People were bringing back, chocolate from South America into Europe.